Did you know that true wealth goes beyond making money? In this video, we are going to demystify the secrets that the rich know and how you can apply them to your life. Get ready to transform your mindset and take the path to financial freedom. The old idea of going to school, getting a job, and investing in stocks for the long term seems somewhat outdated. After all, why save money when they're printing trillions of dollars? The difference between the rich and the poor is huge. It's not just a matter of money. It's essential to look at the whole picture. So what to do? Inside each of us, there's a part that is poor, just as there's a middle-class pot, and this search for security and a steady paycheck is common. Productivity and wealth are not things we learn in school, which only teaches us to work for a paycheck. If you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know that my rich dad didn't want to pay me. He believed that receiving a paycheck could be a significant problem in someone's life. To him, once you become an employee, you lose the freedom to act. That's why my rich dad never paid me. He left my poor dad, who was a public servant, in a state of frustration. What he said was that you don't want to be a slave to money. As an entrepreneur, my view was different. If my rich dad spoke, I would simply start another business. I don't need a paycheck or someone to support me. If the government doesn't please me, I can go to another country that values entrepreneurs. So being an entrepreneur goes beyond just having a business. It's a mindset, a set of skills, and different rules. Small businesses don't follow the same rules as large ones. Being an entrepreneur is all of that. The mindset, the skills, and the functions. If you're an employee or own a small business, your rules and mindsets change. If I could give advice to someone who has never been an entrepreneur but is thinking of taking the risk, I would say that the experience can be tough. I remember my last paycheck. It was a bit of a strange day. Working in Puerto Rico, my boss gave me a check, but it wasn't a payment. It was a bonus, and I was excited yet worried at the same time. A colleague told me that I would go back to work because I would probably fail. I responded with some harsh words because I thought it was quite audacious of him. He had failed before and returned. But I made it clear that if I were to fail, I wouldn't come back. This attitude is important. If you think that if you fail, you can go back to relying on your parents, you will end up doing that. The key is the mindset. Failing can be a way to learn and improve. And that's the real advantage of being an entrepreneur. You truly discover who you are when you have nothing. Always look at the big picture. Many people only worry about their problems. But when you take a look at the whole, you realize that after something bad, something good can emerge. You just need to prepare for it. If you think the coming years will be like the last ones, you'll probably be surprised. When we go to the market and buy milk, we always look at the expiration date. But many people don't look at the expiration date of their finances. Instead of running away from debt, I learned to use it. Recently, I was able to refinance a debt of $300 million with reduced interest from 5% to 2.5%. This means more money in my pocket since the cost of borrowing has fallen. While some experts say to get rid of debt, I say it's better to learn to use it to your advantage. If you work only to make money, you end up paying taxes on it. The lesson I learned is that the rich don't work just for money. We create businesses as entrepreneurs, invest in real estate. Debt and taxes, when used well, can make the rich richer while the poor and middle class lose out. In short, outdated ideas end up bringing outdated results. And that's exactly what happens to so many people. The belief that going to school, getting a job, working hard, saving, avoiding debt, and investing for the long-term effective formulas no longer make sense. The world has truly changed. In 1971, with Nixon taking us off the gold standard, Money ceased to be something solid and became debt. And what if we got rid of the school system? Would it be better not to have any schools? I'm not saying education was less important before, but it no longer works like it used to. There's something called Moore's Law, which says that information doubles every 18 months, meaning everything becomes obsolete very quickly. So, by the time you graduate, you might already be behind. That's why, despite being the oldest among my Harvard friends, I look at what's happening today. I studied there 50 years ago. Now, banks are even charging interest for you to keep money. They don't want your money, they're printing more. And this fuels bubbles in the stock market and the real estate sector. People are just throwing their money away. And yet, they still want a well-paying job. It's an outdated mentality. The idea of getting out of debt is also archaic. The focus should be on learning to use debt to your advantage, not the other way around. No one is going to teach you about taxes in school. What explains the significant difference between the 1% and the 99% is that when money is printed, inflation rises and taxes increase. Anyone who thinks that just starting a business and making money is enough needs a dose of reality. Most entrepreneurs in the US are small, with 24 million being self-employed. Many have no employees. People often confuse being self-employed with actually being an entrepreneur, and the self-employed pay the highest taxes without anyone warning them about it. Yes, that is part of the entrepreneurial spirit. But the truth is there is no bad economy. There is an external economy and an internal economy, and it depends on us to change us. For me, it doesn't matter what's happening out there because I know I will become rich. A person without money, who is financially struggling, only sees the economy negatively because they don't know how to do well in any situation. And those from the middle class usually want a nice house, a stable job, and a car. If you take that away from them, it's total despair. For an entrepreneur who doesn't have a fixed job, this doesn't make a difference. Basically, what I'm saying is that Buckford taught me that there are always two sides to things. If you believe the economy is terrible, maybe it's because your own economy isn't doing well. If you value a stable job, you might end up seeing an economy without jobs. It's about what you can control versus what you cannot. Can I control that? Absolutely. It's all about how to focus internally and not externally. A true entrepreneur keeps their focus where it needs to be. If they fall, they think, this is good because I will rise even higher. The average person, when they fall, gives up. An entrepreneur learns from their mistakes and gets up stronger. People who are afraid of losing their job usually end up losing it. If you can understand that, great. The first job of an entrepreneur is to maintain internal control. When you receive a paycheck, you become an employee. You need to be stronger than that. Say no to external voices. Sometimes, I would ask my dad, who was a PhD and head of education, why we didn't learn about money in school. He told me the government didn't want us to know. At the time, I didn't understand, but I took it seriously. One day, I went to my friend Mike's dad and asked to learn about money, but he just sent me away. And that's how my journey with Rich Dad Poor Dad began. After much insistence, my rich dad agreed to teach me, but with one condition: he would never pay me. That's because he knew that if I were paid, I would become an employee. That's the trap. Entrepreneurs want freedom, and that greatly affected me. He said, never wish for a paycheck. He grabbed a very simple idea. He talked about making money and taught me by playing the board game Monopoly. I did some tasks for him, from cleaning to helping in the office, basically learning everything for free. He used Monopoly to teach about money. One day, I was tired and asked when he would actually teach me about money. He replied that he was teaching me. Every house I wanted to buy represented a lesson. He had his own greenhouse, and he showed me how to acquire more and make everything bigger. 10 years passed, and at 19, I returned to Hawaii. When I arrived, my rich dad had already bought a large property in Waikiki, where the Hyatt Regency is today. He kept playing the game, buying and expanding what he had until it became a giant hotel, which he later sold for $800 million. With everything I went through, I learned a lot about money and the challenges that come with it. I had financial disagreements, but that also made me grow. The issue is that the fear of making mistakes, something that is taught a lot in school, prevents people from evolving. The world is made of ups and downs, right and wrong, and many just want to be right. I came from a family that wasn't that poor, but had a poor mentality. That's what really counts: rich, poor, or middle-class mentality. Poverty truly corrodes fundamental attitudes and is something that is passed down from generation to generation. Many families and middle-class people grow up with ingrained beliefs, such as the idea that hard work is the only way to succeed, or that the rich are not good people. The educational system, in turn, was designed to produce employees, not entrepreneurs. What is really vital? Knowledge about money, accounting, debt, and taxes is not taught in schools. When people ask how my rich dad learned about finances and my poor dad, who was educated, did not, the difference is clear. My rich dad had to take over the family business at the age of 13. For him, dropping out of school was a blessing in disguise. He realized that his real teachers became his accountants, lawyers, and other professionals who actually worked in the business world. And like most school teachers who often do not practice what they preach. A clear example of this happened when I asked a teacher if something we were learning would really have application in real life. He answered that it would not, and I realized that many times educators teach out of obligation and not because they follow what they teach. Therefore, it is essential to find real mentors, those who do what they teach. Throughout life, I have always worked with accountants, lawyers, and bankers, people who help me solve problems and who have real knowledge. The reality is that fear and pessimism are mindsets that surround us. As the Bible says, there will always be poor among us. This is a true scarcity mindset. When someone says, "I can't," that mindset becomes a reality. The questions we ask influence our lives. Instead of saying, "I can't afford this," ask, "How can I afford it?" This mindset opens doors and opportunities. Sports analogies also help to understand that, although everyone plays in different ways, it is important to find your own financial game. We are living in a time of unprecedented transformations, and if you do not adapt, it can be disastrous. An economic collapse in one place now impacts the whole world due to globalization. At the same time, for those who understand and adapt, these crises can represent opportunities. For example, many investors end up making money when the market falls. We are, unfortunately, heading towards a possible global depression, and this will affect the worker and the small business owner. With the national debt rising unsustainably, the reality is that savers are losing. My message is of metamorphosis. What does this mean? It is the transformation from an immature state to a mature state. In difficult times, you may see yourself as a caterpillar in a cocoon. The question is, will you place yourself as a victim or see this as an opportunity for growth and transformation? The choice is always yours. Either transform into a butterfly or let yourself sink. You have the ability to become stronger, smarter, and more adaptable. In crisis, many see a chance to reinvent and thrive. The path you choose can be the greatest transformation of your life. Learn from the challenges and use them as springboards to reach new heights. Change starts within you and in how you react to circumstances. Therefore, transform yourself and embrace this challenging journey. The decision is yours. If you are facing difficulties, the message I bring is not gentle. It's a serious conversation, not a friendly chat. The problem is in your head. That is the bad part. The good news is that you can solve this by changing your thoughts. I don't like to brag, but I am doing very well financially because I had warned that this crisis was coming. It would be irresponsible of me to alert people and do nothing to prepare myself. So, the good news is that the crisis is in your mind. And the bad news is also that what you need now is not just job security, but a job that makes sense to you. What really matters is having a purpose. It helps us get through difficult times. The good part is that my company continues to profit from the product, although the supply chain is impaired. But actually, that is a problem I can face. I have good cash flow. I have some investments and challenges in the real estate sector that will strengthen me. That is the only attitude I can take. Otherwise, I stay here complaining that the government should help me. What can I do? I can choose to go back to being an employee, start my own business, be a freelancer, or an investor. I am always looking for opportunities and reevaluating my professional options. There is a process where I can prepare myself, divided into a few stages. I have a friend in Panama who grows avocados because, of course, people need food. Another friend is starting a business with mussels. And a third friend from Seattle owned a large house and has now turned his children's rooms into small apartments. He did this to rent out and is now making more money than before, as many workers are in Seattle during the week and rent these spaces. The point is that everyone can find a solution. You just need to discover what you can do. The rich do not work just to make money mainly because of the high taxes they face. There are three types of income: earned income, portfolio income, and passive income. If I have a job, that counts as earned income. If I am a doctor or programmer, that is earned income because I am actively earning. On the other hand, if I buy an apple for 10 and sell it for 20, that is portfolio income. Those capital gains. And passive income, which is cash flow, is not taxed. That is why many people are clamoring for taxes on the rich. And I say, good luck, because most of these people have no idea about these three types of income. At the core, the rich do not have jobs, they have assets. And that is why many people, usually from the middle and low class, do not teach their children about this in school. The point is that, as you mentioned about Jared Kushner in an article, he talked about how Trump and Kushner do not pay taxes and accumulate millions. The reporter did not understand why schools do not talk about these three types of income and end up judging people, thinking it is a fraud. This happens repeatedly. Amazon, for example, does not pay taxes. When someone comes and says, "Robert, this is not fair," what do you respond? Is it not fair that they do not pay taxes? There are always other perspectives to consider. In fact, the tax laws exist for everyone and can be used by anyone, as long as they have the proper financial education. I strongly believe in financial education. Without this knowledge, the tendency is to pay a lot of tax. Many people doubt me when I say I made 1 million and did not pay tax. My rich dad taught me this by playing Monopoly, and I started to understand what it was. McDonald's, for example, is in the real estate business. They sell hamburgers but buy real estate to avoid being taxed. The CEO of the company is 16 billion. Guess how much tax he paid? None. And that is completely legal. The problem is that most people do not know this. So, Jared, when he was little, learned about money through his father and people investing in real estate. And he realized that not only is it possible to make money, but also to keep it. The idea that many do not grasp is this: look how much I made. But the question is, how much did you keep? It may not even be half of what you made. And, of course, there is always the tax. The law is the same for everyone. The difference is that most do not apply this knowledge. Probably, as you mentioned, many do not have education because they only think about acting without having a plan. If someone is going to do something risky, actually, what is risky is being employed, paying taxes and saving, as inflation is there, increasing every day. That is what really worries. And that is why there is fake money, unprepared teachers, and assets that are not what they seem. Many places, like Wall Street, will not tell you this. One of the questions I ask is, what do you learn in school about money? And the answer is usually nothing. This is a strategy designed to keep the poor and middle class in the same situation, without learning what the rich know. It is a mindset that is kept out of the school curriculum because of the system that keeps things this way. The first lesson from my rich dad is clear. The rich do not work just for money. The type of game that truly rich people play, very different from what you learn in school. This is the essence of the rich dad, poor dad story. My poor dad, for example, did not have knowledge about these issues and ended up teaching these ideas to our children. My rich dad, although he did not finish school, understood the game. In the end, it is not just about getting a job and working hard. The financial sector revolves around debt and taxes. The logic of traditional teaching is work hard, save, and avoid debt. Who teaches this, after all? This mindset is quite complicated. To me, the biggest risk is being stuck in a job, paying taxes and saving money while they keep renting. The people who come home most exhausted are the middle class and the poor because they end up trading their time for money. The rich, actually, make money work for them. This mindset distinction is crucial. When I asked my rich dad to teach me about money, he initially questioned why he should. The answer was that I would learn to never work just for money. This would make me rich. And so, he agreed to teach me. But with a price. I would have to work for him for free so that I would not think like an employee. Therefore, whenever you ask me about personal finance, I see these references that have shaped me since I was young. Looking at my past and the experiences I had, I cannot help but think, what is taught in school today about this? It is the big question because, often, it falls short. And when you hear from teachers who know nothing about what they are teaching, that is a real concern. In summary, the flight school may have highly qualified instructors, but in the academic world, there is the problem of how the system aligns, which brings up even concerns about what deserves to be considered an asset or a liability in each one's financial life. We always use the metaphor of the coin, heads, tails, and the edge. So, the question is, what side are you on? In my view, all of this is fair. But the big difference is that everyone can achieve the same as I do since the tax laws are available to everyone. It's not just the rich who benefit from them. Anyone can use them as long as they have the right financial education. And that's why I advocate for this education so strongly. Without it, you end up paying taxes the wrong way. Look, very few people manage to make $1 million and not pay taxes. My rich dad taught me this while we played Monopoly, a game where everything starts with greenhouses and a red hotel, or even McDonald's strategy. In this context, McDonald's is an interesting example. They are in the real estate business. They sell hamburgers, but they buy properties, so they don't pay taxes. The guy running the company has a fortune of 16 billion. How much tax does he pay on that? One question I always ask is, what does school teach about money? And you'll notice that the answer is nothing. It's not a mistake. It's a well-architected strategy. The idea is to keep the poor and the middle class working hard without teaching them what the rich know about money. What the rich pass on to their children, the middle class and the poor often don't have access to. Now, imagine you wake up one day and lose everything you've achieved. Money, contacts, everything. How would you react? For many, this is a terrifying thought. But for an entrepreneur, this is something they deal with all the time. Robert, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been through this and knows what it's like. You can wake up with nothing, without a single contact in your phone. But what you have are the knowledge and experiences you've gained. How do you reinvent yourself? I've been through this a few times, and honestly, it's not a big deal. You just have to adapt and move on. Entrepreneurs share this common trait. They persist, change the rules of the game, and don't accept just one answer. For a true entrepreneur, location doesn't matter. What counts is the mindset, the skills, and how you act. Robert believes that to become the entrepreneur you want to be, it's essential to be willing to deal with ups and downs and constantly learn to stay ahead. For me, life is a continuous learning process. I'm always looking to learn more, reading and spending time with other entrepreneurs. I don't get involved with those who only complain about the economy. If something goes wrong, if I need to start over, I quickly go back to being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship may seem complicated, but it's also a way to create financial strength and understanding about investments. So, how can someone become financially wise? What is needed to have positive cash flow? And more importantly, what is necessary to get rich? In this video, I will share some tips that Robert Kiyosaki offers for you to achieve your financial goals. First, change your mindset. Sometimes, we think we can't change the way our mind works, but actually, a simple change in perspective can open up a new world of opportunities. Do you want a good retirement? It involves medical benefits. That's their traditional mindset. To see results, you need to reprogram your brain because the economy happens here, in your mind and emotions. Second tip, use debt to your advantage. This may sound contradictory. How can debt be beneficial? Robert says you need to have the right kind of debt that works in your favor rather than one that just creates financial problems. There are good and bad debts. This directly relates to your finances, income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. For example, if someone says that a house is an asset, that's actually not true. Your house is a liability. It doesn't matter if you don't have debts, a house is a liability. The same goes for a car. It's also a liability. The reason is that, as we mentioned earlier, the 6 basic words of financial education are income, expense, asset, liability, and the other 2 are cash flow. When you look at the life of an average person, they have a job, earn a salary, pay their mortgage, and in reality, the money is going out, not coming in. Therefore, that is not an asset, it's a liability. The liability takes money out of your pocket, while the asset puts it in. When you have a rental property, it generates money for you, so it's an asset. However, if you live in the house, it remains a liability because even without debts, you still face taxes, maintenance, and other expenses. By renting out a property, if you've done a good job, you'll receive an amount every month. I started at 25 with a small apartment that generated income. That was a good debt. The debt worked for me, generating profit. Today, My wife and I own 6,500 properties. These houses bring in monthly financial returns. The people who live in them are grateful, and it all started from a debt. Third tip, find mentors. This is one of the most cited tips, but also one of the most crucial. Having a mentor by your side can be transformative, especially in tough times. Once, in Sunday school, my teacher asked me an interesting question about the three wise men. Why were they wise? I said, because they were rich. In fact, she explained that their wisdom came from seeking the best learning. To succeed in life, it's essential to find the best teachers. Fourth tip, don't work for money. This idea may seem strange in a video about how to get rich, but the reason you may not be achieving financial success is that you're too focused on money. When I make $1 million, it's because I'm not just working for money. If you're seeking money, you end up paying higher taxes for it. The first lesson of Rich Dad Poor Dad is exactly that the rich don't work for money. Instead, we create businesses as entrepreneurs and invest in real estate, which gives me more control over how much I earn and how I manage my taxes. If I make, say, $1 million, I will immediately reinvest that money in real estate, and I can multiply that income. Did you like the tips? Then don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. Comment below which strategy you will apply first and start your journey towards financial independence today.